What is going on, everybody? Another conversation with Jason and Justin. Today we're joined by Jonathan Stoddard. How you doing?
How you doing? Thanks for having me, guys.
Happy to
Absolutely.
have you.
What made you want to become an actor?
Oh, we're just gonna dive right in. Yeah, let's do
Right
it.
into
Yeah.
it, man. Right into it.
Yeah, all
Jumping
right.
off the high dive.
So I did a lot of acting. So my parents are psychiatrists. I've trying to boil it down because it's hard to define, life decisions and the road we take. But I think it's because my parents are psychiatrists. So there's always been this interesting introspection as well as an interesting curiosity in others' behavior. I'm the youngest of four, so fortunately, by the time I came around, I think my parents had a philosophy of like, well, kids are harder to kill than we thought. So, sure, go play in the streets. You'll be fine.
We have
Um,
3 others. Yeah.
yeah, we have three others, and it's like I had a sister 2 years older than me, and I'm sure they were like, you know what, watch your younger brother. Whereas before, I'm sure with the first one, they were like, call national security. She's walking down the street. Well, by the time I came around, they were like, yeah, we'll see you in like 45 minutes. We don't really care where you go. But point being, I think always having somebody to play with, and then especially having looser parental and authority figures, because my siblings don't have authority, not when you're growing up. And it created a lot of like really interesting loose boundaries and a deeper appreciation, I think, for humanity. So as I grew up, that kind of translated into after school programs and drama programs and doing all this kind of stuff and just wanting to have fun and stay youthful. So acting has always kind of maintained that for me.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
You grew up in the 80s, the same as me. We would just vanish for like 4 hours, and our parents would never think twice about it. Nowadays, there's Amber Alerts if you're gone for an hour without any like conversation or text or whatever. That's such a different time.
Did any of
Well,
your siblings go? Go ahead, my bad. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, I mean, they're Amber Alerts, but then every single kid, I mean, other than having like a chip in their head or something like that to track them on your iPhone, it's
Look at you,
wild.
Elon. Yeah.
Yeah. But what were
um,
you asking?
oh yeah. So are you the creative of the family? Did the other 3 siblings, did they go into acting at all? Or is it like a family thing at all? Or not really?
So there's a deep appreciation for the arts. So my dad would take us to like the opera and
Sure.
ballets and stuff whenever he could. We of course hated it, and because we're kids, no one wants to sit through 4 hours of anything.
Mhm.
And then we also grew up on, and we had a longer attention span because we didn't grow up on social media. So I will say that.
Mhm.
But then growing up with piano and music being a really important part, so they really wanted to make sure that we had a certain kind of culture and education for the creative arts and an appreciation for it. But there was a heavy push to say, be cultured, be a decent, educated human being. However, go medical or do something that's reliable
Sure.
or do
Sure.
something that's secure.
Sure.
And so the rest of us kids, it's definitely more creative between my youngest sister because it's girl boy girl boy.
Sure.
So us bottom two, we're the most creatives, and she's actually a really phenomenal photographer in Northern California.
Cool. Yeah.
And then there's me, and I'm me.
I was where we going? You are you for sure.
Yeah. Then there's me, and I kind of do a little bit of everything. So
Yeah,
I've
that's
got to
awesome.
ask, Christmas holiday movies, especially like the Hallmark Lifetime type, are a big guilty pleasure of mine. And you've been in quite a few of them. So my question to you is, once you start making them, do they just have you on like on a Rolodex where you don't have to keep auditioning, or do you have to keep going back to audition every time? Because I've noticed that they like to use the same actors in a lot of them.
So for these, I mean, we're in a whole new, very interesting movement of content and creation, especially after
Mhm.
quarantine and then everything going on with AI and all this kind of stuff, right? But I think mostly this is what I've uh, come to reason out or logic out myself. But there was a very interesting third party acquisition push for content after quarantine. And when everyone got out of the theaters and it was all about online streaming and distribution, or like distribution services, Netflix, Hulu, all that kind of stuff. So there was this massive push to drop the budgets, drop everything to like a 12 to 15 day shoot, and then just pump them out and then sell them for online streaming services. And with that, they're starting to find these really interesting niches. So a lot of the time with the relationships and things like that, I'm not auditioning because there are already so many out there that I've done. But I feel like those, you can't mention one without the other, because the industry, like, this would not have been possible 10 years ago. And it is possible now to be able to have, you know, however many, I think there are 4 or 5, I think I've done 4 or 5 of the Royal Christmas kinds of concepts, and then worked with, you know, Brittany Underwood. I think we've done 3 movies together, and she's phenomenal, and I love it every single time. And this is all with Hybrid as a production company, and then selling it to GAC or GAF. They like to change their name a little bit, so it's a process that's always evolving. But yeah, I don't know, it's a really fascinating cinematic universe that's being created.
I have
With
noticed
that-
that when the chemistry is good between an actor and an actress, and especially those kind of movies, they will bring you guys back to be the leads again and something else as different characters, and that's fascinating to me. Does it get stale coming back and doing it with the same people, or do you have fun each time? Because
No,
I
I feel like
watching them each time.
Because what?
I said I have fun watching them each time. I was just curious.
Yeah, no, thank you. If anything, I feel like every time we come back, I personally believe it keeps getting better and better. And mostly because from production also to my co-star. So even for this last movie that Brittany and I did, and I don't know if they're going to do a Christmas in July thing and do a release, or whether they're going to release it in December, but it's all about ballet and dance and all this kind of stuff. And we're able to show up and support each other so much more, just differently, and a lot more like hands-on. Like, I was helping her prepare, taking videos for her. She's also helping me prepare and get ready for it. Like, but you can only do that because, again, these are 12 to 14, 15 day shoots. I mean, you don't have a lot of time. You don't have a lot of rehearsal. You're going in and you're doing 10 to 15 pages a day. And so every time a movie's done, we're like, woo, what a ride. And then we show up for the next one and we're like, yes, thank goodness it's with people that I already have a history with, that I know are going to rock it. And now we get more and more comfortable because we know the content, we know the general storyline, we know basic general characters of how we're going to play with things. We know how we can feed off each other, how we can keep each other in line and support each other. And all of that just gets easier and easier every time.
I was gonna say, it probably feels like a warm blanket, right? Just you're coming home. If it's that level
Yeah.
of continuation, it probably feels really good. Right? That's all.
Oh, 100%. As soon if they offer me the role and then I'm like, who's the co-star? And they're like, Brittany. I'm like, okay, good.
That's awesome.
Whew, okay.
So, yeah, I'm looking kind of at your IMDb. So if this isn't the right, like, if this is wrong, you gotta let me know. But it seems like you've done a little bit of everything. You've done stunt work, producer, obviously actor, camera and electrical. I want to ask about the stunt work. Like, did you actually do like stunt work? I don't want to like take this as face value. How did that go? And I'm just curious now because it says stunts.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, film in general is really interesting. I like to be very physical, and
Yeah.
especially being the youngest of 4. And like, I was the wild child that would disappear up trees, and we did like circus school in San Francisco. So when I get a chance to do action or sci-fi or things like that, I want to do all my own stuff.
Cool.
And I love it. I love it. I want to feel it. I don't like sitting too much. The Christmas movies are really challenging playing Royal because I have to be so like, oh yes, really, you don't say. But then meanwhile, I'm like, oh, I just want to like, you know, I want to get out there. I want to run, jump, climb trees, you know, do things. So I've done, yeah, everything from handheld to martial arts, the sci-fi, some of my own stunts, things like that. But
Do
yeah,
you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite thing you've done in terms of like a stunt? Is that a thing?
I don't know. That's a great question. I've done rope work and wire work, like getting pulled and yanked
Yeah.
for things. Even some stunts that happen on horseback, which is
That's fun.
really, really fun. That is a whole other element when you're adding in, an animal component.
Yeah, 100%.
That's really fun. And then just some interesting car stuff and falls and stuff like that. It's fun.
Sure. Cool. Yeah. Awesome.
So you're here to promote some stuff, obviously. Let's talk about that.
Well, what would you like to know? Because
Is it-
this summer there's a number of stuff that are actually on the horizon.
Let's
Yeah,
start with
you
My
have
Nanny
15
Stole
things.
My Life. That is a fascinating title. What is that about?
So, well, I'll tell you a little bit about that, and then there's a fun story behind it as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, so Katarina I'm the male lead, she's the female lead, and it's basically explores a very severe case of postpartum. And the thriller suspense part of this is that as she's going through postpartum, after us having our first child, there is also a legitimate and real threat that's happening simultaneously of somebody imposing and trying to take over her life. So she's caught in this world of what's real, what's not, the hallucinations, and as this person is kind of messing with her and kind of provoking her postpartum to get her life to fall apart. So it's really interesting. But yeah, the trailer looks awesome. I play a nice guy in this, so I'm a nice, loving, supportive, sensitive husband.
That has to be nice. It's such a heavy topic. That's such a heavy topic. It's probably nice to be the undercurrent of joy, maybe. I don't know.
Well, it is, because I mean, Katarina had to be like, insane throughout the whole thing, and almost every single scene she's in, it's either paranoia, crying, investing, like anxiety, all kinds of stuff, and it's hard to do that day in and day out. And
Yeah,
hats off to her,
sure.
she rocked it. Here's the fun story behind that, though, which is really cool. So my very first, I want to say like my first kind of bigger rom-com was called The Beauty of Love. And Katarina was my female co-star. So
Small world.
it was a couple years ago. So she and I have this like meet cute, we fall in love, and that's the movie. We fall in love. And so when we got cast in this together, we were like, oh, this is like the unspoken sequel. This is after the rom-com. They get married, have a child, and their life falls apart. Yay, great. It's as if Romeo and Juliet survived, and now we get to see what really happens.
Deep pregnancy. Yeah.
Nice. I'm going to watch that as a double feature.
And one's a rom-com, one's a thriller. I mean, it's kind of perfect. It's very cool.
I've always said I wish more movies would do that. Like, just change genres with a sequel. Let's do something different.
Right?
Yeah, like the end of The Hangover 2. Instead of making another comedy, make it a horror movie.
Oh, that would have been cool. Right? Yeah, they get drugged and they wake up in some bizarre bloodbath someplace.
Alan's missing a kidney. Just like, what?
Right.
When does this come out? Looks like it airs May 16th, actually.
And yeah, May 16th. Lifetime Movie Network.
Awesome.
Be there or be square.
Nice. What about Silent Thunder?
So Silent Thunder is a very cool project. It's going to be doing a theatrical run at the end of the summer. They haven't started doing a full marketing push or anything like that yet, but that is a very cool 18th century acid Western horror. And the writer Isaac is an absolute genius. He's phenomenal. And I've shot one movie with him every year for the last couple of years. And it's just now starting to get legs and getting released and everything like that. But Silent Thunder so we did a lot of like stunts and horseback riding and things like that because you can't fake it. But we had 6 shooters. It's full out Western. It's
That's fun. Yeah, that sounds cool.
And it's got people like Ted McGinley in it and Jack Lucarelli, both of which are phenomenal. Ted is just great. If you guys have seen Love Boat and Married with Children and the current show Shrinking, Happy Days, yeah. But Ted is such, what a powerhouse of a human being and a talent. He's great.
So did I hear right that Son of Thunder, maybe you didn't have like the release stuff kind of ready? Did you shoot it and then not know where it was going to be streamed, or did I misunderstand you?
No, yeah, we shot it first.
Yeah.
And then throughout the process of shooting it, because I mean, going back to earlier in the conversation, talking about third-party acquisition, so many production houses now, instead of it being an Apple original, which they're still making, or a Lifetime original, Hallmark original, so much high quality RE Alexas, high-end camera gear, all that kind of stuff. You could shoot a 4K if you know lighting, you could shoot it on your iPhone. And so people are making independent features for $1 million or less, and then doing third-party acquisition and selling it to streaming services, platforms, things like that. So that was the driving idea behind dedicated filmmakers, is go out and make your own stuff. So Isaac made his.
That's super cool.
It's really, really cool.
Television icon. Have you ever geeked out on set, like kind of knowing who your co-star is going to be and been like nervous walking on the set?
Oh yeah. I would say it would be Ted, but fortunately we were able to get together a lot to rehearse before getting on set. I am so grateful I didn't have to say my lines to him the first time I met him, because that would have been atrocious. But Vivica A. Fox, I did a movie called The Wrong Prince Charming, which was the first time I did a British accent on TV. And I don't know what it was, but because I had a childhood crush on her when I was younger. And so when she walked into the room, all the words of my scene left the room, and it was I don't even know how to explain that. Like, I'm getting nervous talking about the fact that I was nervous. But yeah, that was probably one of the the things that sticks out. Yeah.
It's awesome.
I bet that's exciting. I bet it is. So yeah, you got, like I said, you got a lot of stuff, and that's awesome. It's a good thing that
I was about to ask, are you exhausted before he goes into his question? Like, are you just tired? Like, what?
There was an article. There was an article that I saw relatively recently, and they were like, so John has another movie coming out. This is movie number 129 or something like that. And then it's like, just kidding. But John, this is only movie 14 that he shot within the year 2023. He's working harder than Nicolas Cage with the taxman on his back.
I would agree. I second that motion. Yeah.
I have to say, am I tired? Yeah, I am. This is a tough industry, and I've tried doing it a very specific way of following all the rules and doing all that kind of stuff, and it was very hard for me to get in. And so part of the reason why I did what I did over the last 4 years was because I decided, you know what, I'm going to make enough noise. If I can't be selective about a very specific project and hope that like puts me over the edge, I am going to become the hardest working actor in the world. I want to be the biggest recognizable nobody, where I'm on every platform, on every genre, everywhere. And I am going to say yes to absolutely everything. And I'm going to build enough momentum, cut my teeth, and I am going to make sure that I'm everywhere. And then from there, once that's established, now I'm going to start cultivating more selective projects and things like that. But I want people to look at my resume and look at the body of work, and whether or not it's the most high end or moving or anything, this has been an invaluable experience for me to be able to do this. And I know that the best work is yet to come. But this has been an incredible ride for me so far.
And you never know who's around either. You don't know who knows who and who knows what. So any of these movies you're doing could be, the next step.
Yeah, exactly. Is that, well, a lot of these have led to some very fascinating movies, even like Somewhere in Montana with Graham McTavish and Michelle Hurd, or even The Plus One with like Ashanti and Cedric the Entertainer, to even potentially, some interesting ones coming up with some Oscar winners. There are some very interesting movies that are coming up within this next year that were a result of doing a smaller TV movie and just hustling and wanting to continue to be a value add in the spot.
I was gonna ask about Somewhere in Montana, but you brought up Cedric the Entertainer. What was that like working with him?
Oh my God, he's a legend. He is a legend. I mean, it was an all-star cast in general, just phenomenal. From Ashanti, Michelle Hurd, Cedric the Entertainer, BJ Britt, Cassie Servo, Jonathan from Mean Girls. Like, we just had so much fun. Brendan Bradley and Austin. Like, you should see the photos of all of us because we're all staying in the same hotel and like getting up and going to work every day. But yeah, Cedric was phenomenal. He is such a genius to work with, and he had us cracking up every single day.
He has really funny. I had to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so effortlessly too. He's just such a genius. Like it's insane.
That's
Yeah,
super
that's
cool.
awesome. Yeah. So tell us about Somewhere in Montana.
So Somewhere in Montana is it's a human I don't know if it falls under a human interest piece, but what I will say is that Brendan Smith, who created this movie years and years ago, wanted to make a movie and wanted to hire Robert Downey Jr. At the time, this was before Iron Man and his comeback into the industry and everything, and it was a little bit more during the period of time with his allegations and stuff. He wanted to hire Robert, and he couldn't get the insurance. Like it was the insurance company wouldn't insure him because he was too much of a Hollywood risk to bring in a big movie star for the movie that he wanted to make. And so the project died, life happened, he has kids, family, everything. And then later, now is about the time he decided, well, I want to make a movie about what would happen if we brought that movie star, and if something like, what's the worst that could happen? And then he turned it into a script. And so Somewhere in Montana really explores a production that comes to this ranch in Montana, and Graham McTavish is the head of the ranch, and it explores people, it explores the industry, it explores pursuit of happiness. Like, it has a little bit of everything. Sweeping landscapes, of course, it shows off Montana beautifully. And then I play the kind of off-kilter, risky person and movie star, and some things happen that are no bueno, and so it's kind of a cool thing. It's a fun journey for sure.
It sounds fun. It's crazy because Robert Downey Jr. I believe that they had to put Jon Favreau put up a lot of his insurance to be Iron Man in that first Iron Man movie. And I mean, that sounds fascinating. I can't wait to check this movie out as well.
Yeah, and I mean, Robert's phenomenal. He's I mean, even before Iron Man and all that kind of stuff. I mean, now everyone, of course, is like, oh yeah, like Robert, I've always believed, like, and but at the time,
nobody, right? Yeah.
Well, he was, he had really reached phenomenal status as a brilliant actor, but the industry had its own kind of say about him. I've always respected and appreciated his work. He's been phenomenal from the beginning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what was it like working with Graham? Because I know him from The Hobbit. I know him from a bunch of stuff. Like, was that fun? Was that cool? Like, do you have any fun stories about him?
He is great. He is just a solid, wonderful human being, and very kind of understated. With his, even though he's a big dude, he's just kind of there. He's this great, gentle giant. He's so wonderful and professional to work with. Really just eyes open, wanting to like help people, make sure the production is the best it can possibly be, looking out for people. Like, he's one of those people that you walk on set and then you just kind of feel safer knowing that he's there.
Sure. That's nice.
Mhm.
That's good.
He was really, really wonderful. I mean, yes, professional and talented
Sure.
and great, absolutely. But yeah, I absolutely adored working with him. It was great. And Michelle Hurd was on that one too, so it was great to work with her again as well.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So that's awesome. I love that you're working with all these wonderful people. Tell us about Killer Fortune.
Oh, that was fun. So that came out a little bit ago, right? Like a month or two ago. Not at the time this podcast will get released, but but yeah, that was a fun one. They wanted to make something that was kind of Succession like, and it's based on a true story. So I don't know if do you know the story itself?
Not offhand. I'd love to hear about it
no.
though.
So the true story is that there was a guy who inherited his father's company and he wasn't really like spiritual or anything like that, and but inherited all this money and everything. A woman posing as a fortune teller, tarot reader, intuitive, ends up giving him some advice and kind of, making sure the outcome happens. So she starts small, works her way up, and gains his trust. And then eventually starts saying he's going to meet this woman, all this kind of stuff. Well, the woman happens to, in real life, the woman happens to be her daughter. And so she is giving him advice to fall in love with her daughter so that they'll get married. And then her daughter gets half of the fortune, gets everything, and then they were going to get divorced, all that kind of stuff. So he ends up finding out later. And oh my God. So this went so far to where he moved the fortune teller into his house, into his mansion. Like he literally entrusted her with everything. But that's the real story that it was based on. And then I think there was, maybe a murder or something that happened. I forget. But that's the real story. So what Hybrid did is they took the story and they kind of embellished it a little bit, where it's two women whose parents passed away because of this pharmaceutical drug. And then my father was the one that created the pharmaceutical company. And then he passed away, leaving it to me. And so one of the girls acts as a fortune teller, and then she cons me into falling in love with, or advising me to fall in love with her friend, or her sister, sorry. And that's kind of the fun thing. But it's very Succession. It's faster paced. It's not your typical thriller. This is more of like a drama and maybe West Wing-ish and just kind of fun.
Nice. I can't wait to check all these out. I want to thank you so much for joining us and chatting with us. Where can everybody find you online?
So Instagram is my main thing. So John Stoddard Official, just Jon Stoddard Official. I don't do all the other socials, unfortunately, but just that one. And then otherwise Google. Cool. There are a lot of movies that are coming out, and it's hard to keep track of sometimes.
I have two more questions if you're up for it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Again, IMDb. You're part of one of my favorite games of all time. If this is true, Red Alert 3. Were you in that game?
Yeah.
Because I played that game a lot. If you could tell me anything about that, that'd be cool. If not, totally fine too. But I played that game a lot.
Oh man. Okay. So, I mean, there's nothing that I can tell in terms of like, all I can share is my story of it. So the first time I decided I wanted to be an actor, I was in Italy, and I was like, you know what? I was cooking, and I was like, I don't want to cook in Italy anymore. I'm going to sleep on a couch and move to LA. So I started doing that. And then, I'm trying to do everything I can. And I got this gig for the video game of being, I was like one of the guys in the office that's running around grabbing things and like doing stuff.
I know those cutscenes. Yeah, I know you're talking
about. And there were only a couple of them, right? Because it's in between gameplay.
Yeah.
And so all I can tell you is that was one of the coolest things for me. Like I was like so doughy-eyed and like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And it was one of the first times, I forget the actor, but he's great, and he does a lot of like mob movie stuff. And he was sitting at the desk talking, and I remember two things from that period of time. One, the director was like, okay, everyone ready? And in action. And he was like, sorry, I know what I'm doing, but these guys, me, don't know what they're doing. No one's told them what to do. So before we call action, can we please inform our other actors what's happening? And it was one of the first times that I was like, oh my God, big actors really, they take care of all the actors. They take care of everyone on set to make sure that it's good. So that was a very cool thing. And then the director at one point was like, oh, did you tie your own knot? And I was like, yeah, my dad was in the military. He taught me how to tie my tie. And he was like, it's a good knot. And I was like, I don't know why I remember that.
It's a good knot. It's all good.
Yeah. It was like a half Windsor military. I don't know. But yeah, it was a very, very cool experience. But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. All right. Last one for me. The Young and the Restless. That's like one of the longest running TV shows like ever. Was that intimidating to be a part of? To like even jump, like dip your toes into? Like it has to be, right?
I mean, it was intimidating because that was my first TV credit. That's being part of a legacy. That's TV for soap operas. I mean, sometimes they get a bad rep, but quite honestly, for an actor, it's the best training and experience you can get. It's phenomenal. And I had no idea what to expect. I barely could eat for the first time I was booked, which was only an under 5. They expanded the role later to 11 or 12 episodes or something. But the very first time was just an under 5. That was it. It was a phone call. I put the phone down. And for under 5 lines, I could barely eat. And I was sick to my stomach for 2 days. And I tried calling everyone, and I was like, so I hear there's only one take and there's multiple cameras. I was like, do you know anyone in soap operas? Do you know anyone in soap operas? Please, just somebody tell me what it's like. What can I expect? Because I'm freaking out. And nobody really could tell me anything, which was awful and made it almost worse. But after that first time, I will say, like, I
got easier.
It got a lot easier, but it was such an honor to be a part of it. Especially to portray John Abbott in the 70s, which was such an iconic character, and to be associated with Jerry Douglas. I mean, it was fantastic for me.
What's the turnaround time with soap opera? Because I know they air like every day a new episode.
When we were shooting them, I would say it was about a month out, maybe. Okay. Now, in a day, you might shoot multiple episodes. And I will say one of the tricky things I didn't know is that every episode usually has a different director.
Oh, okay.
So if I shoot 3 episodes in a day, I might work with 3 different directors.
Okay. So I asked this
to memorize those scripts to shoot 3 episodes in a day. Because how long do you have to look at the script? Like a couple days?
Yeah, a couple days. And then they might make changes on the day or things like that. Now, fortunately, I will say most of my scenes were not extensive 20-page things. So I am very lucky in that regard. Some of the other actors and the regular day players, because I was a recurring day player that would come in every 3 to 6 months. And I would have smaller scenes because I'm more for backstory and to, help with exposition and stuff. So
sorry, I know I said. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I know you mentioned you have a bunch of different directors for that show. Does that have more responsibility on you to kind of own what that character and the character you're portraying kind of is represented on the screen? Like, or do you have someone like is watching that for like continuation and like feel for the character? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. My strategy with it, because every director to me is kind of like an interesting moving target. It has more to do with not anchoring in on the character, but surrendering to their vision.
Sure.
And trusting the team and trusting the leadership to say if they're giving this direction to go here or they want the blocking here, it's because there's something that I'm not aware of.
Sure.
And so I'm here because of what I do. They're telling me to go here because of what they know.
Sure. Sure.
So a lot of, especially when I'm jumping from set to set, whether it's Young and the Restless and soap opera stuff, or whether it's rom-com, because I was been shooting almost a movie a month every month for the last couple of years. So it's jumping from project. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. If I'm jumping from rom-com to horror to sci-fi to rom-com to Christmas to to British Christmas, to all these things, and the director is changing every time. I have to become the only way that I've gotten through it is to become a very malleable and
Sure.
open and aware and just pliable, I guess, flexible.
Yeah.
So a lot of it has been practicing surrendering for me.
Cool. The Swiss Army knife of acting.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, thanks again,
Thank you.
Jonathan, so much. Everybody, I'll put the links to everything down below and to his Instagram handle. And have a great night. Like, comment, subscribe.